Hallo und ein herzliches Willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von Radikal Glücklich, deinem Podcast für ein strahlendes, gut gelauntes Leben. Dies ist Folge 226, Natalie Miles, How to Follow Your Intuition. After the short German introduction, there will be the English interview. Ich freue mich so, heute ist ein sehr besonderer Gast da und auch wenn dein Englisch vielleicht wackelig ist, bitte hör dir diese Folge an. Natalie Miles ist ein Medium. Ich habe mit ihr im letzten Jahr viel gearbeitet und ihr Buch lese ich gerade. Sie hat einen Kurs gemacht, bei dem ich Teilnehmerin war. Ich war bei mehreren ihrer Events und ich habe mir zum Geburtstag in diesem Jahr eine 1:1 Session mit ihr gegönnt und sie hat so wunderbare Sachen geteilt, die so ins Schwarze getroffen haben und die mich so viel weitergebracht haben, dass es mir ein Fest ist, sie euch heute vorzustellen. Natalie ist Medium, sie teilt im Podcast, wie sie ihre intuitive Stimme gefunden hat, dass sie erst eine Karriere beim Film gemacht hat, aber dann gemerkt hat, dass es immer sich nicht richtig anfühlte, obwohl sie tolle Angebote bekommen hat und alles. Und gleichzeitig teilt sie auch, wie wir unsere intuitive Kraft finden können, welche Schritte notwendig sind, um diesen Muskel, den wir alle haben, zu trainieren, sodass wir unser Guru werden, wir unseren Weg selber finden. Und wer mich schon länger kennt oder hier zuhört, weiß, dass es so mein Ding ist. Und gleichzeitig das Thema Intuition für mich immer noch nicht so leicht ist, trotz Meditation und all dem. Ich manchmal das Gefühl habe, dass so ein intuitives Wissen etwas für manche Leute nur ist, die besonders begabt sind. Und auch diesen Zahn zieht Natalie im Interview. Wenn dich auch eine 1:1 Session ruft oder du ihr Buch lesen willst oder ihren Instagram sehen möchtest, ich habe all das in den Shownotes verlinkt und kann dich nur dazu ermutigen, dich auf den Weg zu machen und deine eigene Intuition zu stärken. Und ich sage vielen Dank fürs Zuhören bis hierhin und ganz viel Spaß beim Interview und bei all den Erkenntnissen, die Natalie mit uns teilt. So, I am happy and thankful to have a very special guest today. I'm currently reading her book, putting it, if you're on YouTube, you can see it. If you are just on the podcast, it's Natalie Miles' book, You Are Intuitive, which I'm currently reading and which is giving me so much insight. And I already booked a session with her. I already joined one of her courses and sessions she makes. She does incredible work. And I'm thrilled to speak with you, Natalie, about everything that you are doing. Let's see if we can get it in an hour. So happy to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's wonderful. Maybe you want to introduce yourself with a couple of sentences, whatever you feel is right to share with us.
Yeah, I'm Natalie. I am a psychic medium, a writer, creative, podcaster, multiple job titles, channel. I teach people how to connect to their intuition. But it's interesting because I really feel like my job title's just like shifting and changing and evolving. Like it's so funny. Every time I get asked to share who I am and what I'm doing, it really seems to shift all the time. So I'm just here to open doors and inspire people to make the choices that feel aligned to their heart and their own inner truth. And that's the mission.
That is wonderful. And I think that's just another sign how connected you are with the flow of life, to not hold on to a label, isn't it?
Yeah. I find it's really loud for me when I outgrow things, and it feels like it doesn't fit. It feels like it doesn't fit, or it doesn't feel like me anymore, or I want to be talking about different things. I see people online and I always find it really interesting where they're still talking about the same thing and they've been talking about it for like 5 or 6 years and they have the same brand. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I'm really impressed because I just can't. I'm really impressed when people do that, but I just, yeah, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, next flow of energy, next thing to share.
Yeah, that's great. So, okay, let's talk about a little, maybe about the latest things you are sharing because they're really interesting. You started a new podcast and it is
Yeah.
called Things That Die.
Yeah, things that
And
die.
and it is it's a topic where people kind of shy away. I know I do. I haven't been had the courage yet to listen. I know it will be great, but it kind of is kind of like to confront us with endings. So maybe you want to share a little why that calling came
Yeah.
and what is your mission on that podcast?
Yeah, I think, well, multiple things. I think from having one-on-one sessions and group sessions, the biggest thing that people face are endings. It's the biggest things that people resist, even though their body is screaming at them, their intuition is screaming at them. It's this not willing to look at endings as we face endings every single day of our lives. And then that looking at our then relationship to death and endings. So if we're fearing the day-to-day endings of our own life, how does that then how is that part of our own fear of death and what that looks like? So I'm kind of opening up the conversation, not just about physical death and death of leaving this plane of existence, leaving this human body, but looking at the death and endings that we face every single day that brings in the transformation, the newness, and the connection that we have. And it's funny that you said, you're like, I know I need to listen to this podcast, but I'm not ready right now. I really feel that you're not the only one that is experiencing that. I've had people message me and say, oh, I'm not sure I'm ready for this yet, but knowing. And when I listen to my guides, I listen to my intuition, and yeah, this conversation is going to be really big. It's going to be really important as we move through the next 5-6 years. And I'm just, getting ahead of the curve and beginning to open up the conversation in this way that feels really good. Yeah, I mean, the idea of the podcast has been around for the last year. I share this at the start of the other one of the episodes, but the final kick for me was when I was traveling across Canada last year, and I overheard a mum say to her little girl that her grandfather had gone on a really long hike and wasn't going to be at the family event. And I suddenly realized that this mum was basically saying to her daughter that her grandfather had died, but didn't have the confidence to say that her grandfather had died. So kind of made up this story that her granddad had gone hiking in the mountains. And I was like, well, hang on a second. If you're hiking in the mountains in Canada, that also involves bears, cougars, coyotes. I was like, that's probably breeding more fear into this 8-9-year-old than actually just saying your grandfather died. Like, he's not here because he's dead. And that was just the final push for me to really open up the conversation, because this little girl wanted clarity, and it just made me see how kids know anyway. But more importantly, it's just showing how as adults we resist talking about endings. We for many of us, we don't talk about death, or we don't know how to talk about death and endings. So yeah, it was a really interesting push.
Yeah, that's it's amazing because when I heard that you were doing this topic, because if before I got to know you, the first reels I saw from you, you have a really kind of, I don't know if the English word is right, but it's kind of like strict. You are really clear with your messages, and you're like, choo, choo, choo. The energy of this month is choo, 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 choo. And I was like, okay, now Natalie is talking about about things dying. That would be like, choo, choo, choo.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like we all need to. So you are really right with what you're saying, because I think we need to face it, because when we see that things end, we value them more in the present. Plus, when we let go of things, that makes room, space for new beginnings. So there
100%.
won't be a beginning without an ending.
Completely. And there is also the misconception that the ending is going to be difficult, stressful, cause pain, cause anxiety, cause tension. And most of the time, the ending isn't always like that, but we create these massive stories in our head so that we resist the ending too. And actually, the conversations that have been had on the podcast are really light. Like, we're talking about big things, but there's also a lightness and a laughter, and there's a vulnerability in what people are sharing, because you're hearing from people talk about something that they don't normally share in their work, or they don't normally haven't shared across their own personal platform. So you're getting this really intimate snapshot from people talking about the death and endings in their own life, but not just physical death, but their own transformation, their own identity shifts. That's been a really big theme that's been coming up. The death of the identity, the ego death, that many people are experiencing right now.
Yes, and it's a transition which feels some days a light and like a blessing, and other days it just feels like we are losing the ground we're standing on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
that
that's
is,
the energy right now. I mean, the energy forecast theme that I channeled through back in 2022 for this year, for 2023, the energy forecast for the year is moving on. And we're moving on. We're being asked to really look at our relationship with endings, to really move on from the old stories we've been telling ourselves, whether from on a healing level, maybe it's finally letting go of the trauma or the story that we've been working through. The moving on could be moving jobs, moving houses, changing relationships, but many people are really experiencing this moving on energy this year. And yeah, it's all connected to facing the endings and having the beginning.
yeah, that is true. Okay, so we'll got new face to listen to that podcast now.
Yeah,
So
go and have a listen. I think you might be surprised.
that's great. Yeah. So you shared in the beginning you are a psychic medium, you channel, and for a lot of the listeners of my podcast, that's kind of a newer topic. So I have been felt the call to work with my intuition the last maybe 2 or 3 years, more and more. And that's how I found you and Tracy and all the great work you're doing. So maybe you would like to share a little about your journey of channeling, being intuitive. Has that always been like this? Maybe some thoughts on what can we do to listen more to our intuitive side.
Yeah. I think it's only in reflection that you realize you've been intuitive your whole entire life and receiving messages and guidance. But I always say that we're all intuitive. We all have the gifts. It's that we kind of shut off or turn them off through societal conditioning, family, religion, fear. There can be lots of ways that we turn off our intuition and influence to say that it's bad or negative, or bad things will happen to you if you connect, or you'll bring through a bad energy. So yeah, there's a lot of fear mongering around that. But I went to a psychic circle when I was 16 years old with my mum, and that was one of the first kind of formalized structures that I went to as at 16, and realized I could connect and have share messages with people in a kind of more formal setting. But I'd been, dreaming. My dream state as a kid was always really intense. And and then I it was always been around, but I then worked in film. So I worked in film for 10 years. Traveling the world, got to work on some amazing projects. But something was missing. There was something missing from it. And they wanted me to be a director, and they wanted me to, they kept giving me these chances, these opportunities to, do more and move up the ladder. And I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. I was like, something's missing. Like, I should be excited by this. I should be happy by this. This feels like, this is great. And I was like, oh, this feels really wrong. And so I grew up in the UK, and then in 2014 I moved to Canada. I moved to Vancouver, and it was there that I really stepped into my intuitive gifts and my talents. And it was there that when I was working in film, that a boss was like, they let me go from the production company, and they were like, go and discover what makes you happy. Go and do what you're supposed to do, because there's something missing. The irony being that 3 weeks before, I'd already started designing my own logo and my own website and everything connected to starting an intuitive business. So I was like, okay, this is the push I need. And so, I started my intuitive business, and it has just, it's grown from, again, me listening to my own intuition, listening to who I should approach to go on podcasts and things like that. And I've been super fortunate of growing the business and being able to do something that I feel that isn't work, if that makes sense. It's just me, and I feel really honored to have found that in this lifetime, to find something where it doesn't feel like work. It feels like Nat being Nat, me fulfilling a purpose, which has been like really, really special to be able to do. To talk to your other point around how to connect to your intuition. Well, we're all intuitive, as I said, and I think it's about slowing down and noticing being really important, the themes, the patterns, the signs that are around us every single day. And I really talk about the intuitive body as the body being really intuitive. And so it's about bringing your awareness to your body and how it's communicating to you as well. So it's about having body awareness and being intuitive about how you might be seeing, feeling, knowing, hearing as some of the gifts. And some people have one, some people have all of them. I believe that we have all of them, but it's like they kind of dial down. And so the more you play with the energy, you can dial them up and reconnect with them. But yeah, if for anyone that wants to start, I would first begin to notice the themes and patterns in your life. And that can also be like the themes and patterns the conversations that you're overhearing, the TV shows and the films that you're watching that might all have a similar theme. Like if there are particular themes, death, rebirth, transformation, same words, same colors, things that just keep repeating you around you, take notice. And instead of like going onto Google and typing into Google, what does this mean? I've just seen a fox. What does that mean? I've just seen, this particular bird. What does this mean? Ask yourself before you even step onto Google to ask, what does this mean for me? What does this color mean? What does this symbol mean? Because you're going to get way more guidance if you stop and ask yourself what it means to you than going onto Google and checking. So yeah, that would be my first way in of, again, it starts with your own intuition, not Google telling you some kind of universal symbolism, versus you trusting your own intuition to ask yourself the question.
That is wonderful. I have to come back to the first part because how funny us talking about endings and beginnings, and that that boss or those people in Vancouver telling you, okay, this has to end now so you can begin something new and your business started off. That's just a wonderful analogy to the things you said before. And plus, what I really feel when I connected with you and your work is that the confidence that you have, that we are all intuitive, makes me want to listen to myself more. I think that's something we are conditioned also not to believe in. We are conditioned that there might be some special people with special gifts. And so we dial down our own voice and give away the power to somebody else instead of like training the muscle.
Yeah, completely. We're still conditioned that there's a person in power, or there's a person that's better, or that kind of, especially in the spiritual community, that there's some kind of like guru that's going to give you all the answers to your own, transformation slash enlightenment. And I think, yeah, in the end, it comes from us. And I think there's a real big energetic shift that's going down, that's kind of breaking down that notion again of like, no, the power's within you. All the knowledge, all the wisdom is there. It's just that relearning and retrusting that you have the power to access it.
So, and then when we start to listen to our bodies, we probably, so with me, it is like this. I feel all of a sudden all those sensations, but I'm conditioned to go to see a doctor if something doesn't feel right. So I really had to learn to look up into books like from Louise Hay or so to get an idea that everything which is going on might be medical, might be really in my physical body, but it can always have, and it always has, another layer on it, and that layer probably gives me more solution than just working on the physical realm. That I'm still working on it, not to want a quick fix, but to see things as something that I can integrate or that I can learn.
Yeah, and of course, there's always a place for medical doctors when it's needed. But there's also this, we are energy bodies, we are energy beings. And so we can take on the energy of others, including aches, pains, feelings, emotions, anxiety, fears that actually aren't ours and belong to other people. And so, I go deep into the book, sharing about like, this is how you can identify somebody else's energy. This is how you can remove that person's energy from your field, from your own body, because a lot of the time, it's somebody else's. For me, in client sessions, I do, for me, I do lots of energy clearing in my own body because I'm like, that doesn't belong to me. That doesn't belong to me. And I can tell before a client's got on the call that they've got like teeth stuff happening because my teeth start aching. And I'm like, oh, do I need to go to a dentist? Is something wrong with my teeth? And I'm like, no, that's because it's their teeth. It's not mine. Or I've got a pain in my knee all of a sudden. I'm like, wow, why is my knee hurting? What is this about? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, that's connected to that person. And then the minute I have identified the person that it belongs to, the pain or the ache or whatever it is, or the emotion literally disappears out of my body and it's gone. And so, yeah, but we can all identify that. It's amazing what we take on, again, not just in the physical body, but in the emotional, energetic body of the things that we take in from the people around us, the conversations that we hear, the news that we're consuming, social media. And we have to be really aware and conscious around, yeah, what we're consuming and the programming that it is sharing with us.
Totally. Still learning it.
Yeah, and it's ongoing. Like it's ongoing for me as well. And I think that's that whole, just because I'm talking about it doesn't make me an expert. It makes me, I know I'm good at what I do, but I'm still human and I'm learning, I'm learning all the time as well. And I think, yeah, and again, that's the power of I think of the sharing of information and the telling of stories and the sharing of guiding others, is the fact that it doesn't need to be some kind of hierarchy, kind of guru vibe to it.
No, that's true. Yeah. And that makes it easier also, I think, to believe that we all have that strong inner knowing where we can connect to.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we all know when something's off. It's whether we choose to really listen to it that it feels off, because so many of us, you know, you meet someone for the first time, you're in a group of people and someone just feels off and you're like, oh, but I should like that person. They seem really nice. They're friends with so and so, but your whole body's like, I don't really want to be around that person. And then a lot of the times we don't, if to use that as an example, that we then don't, listen to how the energy of somebody else feels in our body, or a situation where you get asked to go and and it feels off. To use a current example, the son that went down to go and view the Titanic, who didn't really want to go, who was just going to placate his dad for Father's Day, and now, unfortunately is now dead. And his whole body, his whole intuitive body was like, don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go. But he overrode it and ended up going with his dad. And, and then it has this ending.
Yeah, that is so sad. And plus, sometimes when we listen to our intuition, and that we can see afterwards how good it was that we listened. But last week, I should have had a reading from a new book in a town which is like an hour drive, and I heard on the radio about a storm rising up. And I felt that I need to cancel it, but there were so many people who had signed up, and I felt really bad. But in the evening, it doesn't look so bad from my window, of course. But in the next morning, I saw the newspaper, and the street which I would have been driving on was underwater.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have been safe. So that was just so for me to see. Okay, good that you listen to that and not. Because there's another voice inside of me, and I think inside of everybody, who wants to please and who doesn't want to make somebody mad or disappoint.
Completely. And that's so natural. And it's also there's a misconception that by listening to your intuition means that amazing good stuff is going to happen. Sometimes listening to your intuition is having the difficult conversation. It's having the big ending. It's leaving the relationship. It's leaving the job. And so that can also feel really daunting, and listening and trusting your intuition, because it actually might bring more temporary pain and suffering to get through to the other side. So it's sometimes listening to your intuition is going to make you feel uncomfortable. It's going to be pushing you through things that you might be resisting. And that's also another reason why sometimes we dial it back and be like, nope, this feels safe here, or nope, I'm not ready to make that decision. Because, sometimes in listening to your intuition and more importantly, taking the action on it, can bring up a lot of things.
Yeah, that 100%. So can we move? Can we zoom out into a bigger picture for a second? And I would love to hear your thoughts on when our intuition is guiding us through this lifetime. What is kind of like the goal or the thing? I don't know the right word in English. What is our intuition guiding us through? So how do you think? Do we have like a soul journey, like a exercise we need to make?
Yeah. What's the word in German? I'm really intrigued. How
What?
would you say it in German?
A Seelenweg, so like the path of the soul.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I was intrigued to hear what it sounded like in German. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all on this planet to learn. I know that sounds really stereotypical from other, practitioners out there, but it feels like it's a learning. I think we do have soul missions. I don't believe in like one sole purpose. I think that makes us I think it puts way too much pressure on us. I think there is just multiple different soul purposes that we have. I think there are people that we're supposed to meet. I think there are conversations that we're supposed to be having. There are opportunities to learn and learn from the mistakes, and sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. Do I believe that we come back if we don't learn the lessons? Yeah, I do. I really feel that if we don't, and again, this isn't about making the right choices. It's about um, being open and aware to have the learning from it. Yeah, that then moves us through life. I think, yeah, the soul is here to learn, and we have had past lives and we will come back and do it again, and we have repeated, um I believe in soul groups or soul families, so that, the family that you have now, you have had many lives with, where you've all had different roles, and you're learning from the same themes that are coming up. I've had that from, I've run my own past life regressions group, past life regressions, and that's been really fascinating to see people experience family members in past lives. That's always crazy and amazing to witness the things that come through with that. But yeah, we do. We're here to learn. We're here to evolve. We're here to make the choices, and I think that's because a lot of people say, well, do we have a choice? Is everything like predetermined? Is it just destiny, that we die on a date and, everything, we don't have free will or choice in it? And I'm like, no, there's free will. We're here as humans, to try out the choices and see what happens. That's my take on it.
Yes, totally. I believe in that too. And I love the idea of that there's not only one sole purpose, but that there are lots of opportunities to act and learn and
Yeah, I had an
more.
astrologer once say to me, an astrologer once said, he's like, sometimes your purpose is just to hoover and vacuum and clean your kitchen. Like that's the purpose. Like it can be as simple as that. And we can put too much pressure on ourselves as humans that we have to find the thing, find the thing, find the thing. And I'm finding right now that the wellness space, the spiritual space, whatever you want to call it, there's so much pressure right now to like find your thing and make your money, and you won't have all of this until you got to keep searching and searching, and then you'll be happy. And it's like, when 9 times out of 10, then you get the things and then you're not happy, and then you keep going. And it feels like the wellness spiritual space is just perpetuating that, as it becomes more of a money machine, where actually people that are running and are in in that business don't actually want people to find the thing and actually be fulfilled, because then they're out of a job, they're out of earning money. So it's it's kind of a bit like a vicious circle right now. And I just witnessed too many coaches and things online right now that are, um, yeah, I don't know. There's just this pressure to find the thing, and I think that it's actually doing us a disservice right now.
Yeah, I think so too, because I totally believe in that. If we are searching for something that makes us happy somewhere in the future, it means that we are unhappy now. So the goal should be to be happy right now, to do something that we feel better right now. Because if we are energetic beings, it makes no sense to run over there and feel bad on the run.
Yeah.
It
And
doesn't make sense.
then we always spend our time searching for something or running for something or thinking that there's something better. And I think that that's a really, um, it's part of our culture right now anyway. We want things fast, we want things easy, we want it in our hands straight away. But there's always this, the grass is greener. um it'll be better when I have that, it'll be better when I'm earning more money, it'll be better, when I have this, when I'm in that relationship, when I have that. And I think there's so much of that right now that it's all part of that like crumbling, I think, that's happening, that death of, of people realizing that that doesn't work. And and the shift in society connected to that is really powerful.
Totally. Yes. Okay. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. So, I have my little list here. So you're sharing also energy forecasts on YouTube, which
Yeah.
are beautiful. I love them. And it's always like I'm listening to you and I'm like, no, I don't think so. And then during the month, I'm like, okay, wait. I'm rolling my eyes and I'm like, okay, here we go. I think Natalie says it. And you remind us on Instagram too. So tell me more about the idea of that energy forecast. What is the idea of it? And how does it serve us?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I'm actually pausing them and stepping back from doing them every
Oh,
month.
sorry.
No, and it's a good question to ask and why? Because this is all of this. Because I just felt like people were taking my word as verbatim and not listening to themselves into knowing what the energy is. And I love, and it's funny because I love doing them. And as I'm approaching, when we were recording this the end of June, I've already received for me what the July energy forecast is for me. And it dropped in and I was like, oh God, do I share it? Do I not share it? I'm so used to sharing this. But I do it.
You could do it now.
I love you. I love you. Well, for me, July is the falling, as in FALLING, like the falling, like things falling, like falling down, falling away, breaking. Like that was what I heard for me, like a couple of days ago. And the energy forecast, what I've loved about them is I'm sharing it collectively, but because it's the energy, it relates on the individual as well. So people message me from around the world and they're like, oh my God, it's like you're talking at me. Oh my God, it's like you're sharing what is happening in my life right now. And as you said, people are like, oh, this didn't make sense for me at the start of the month, and I wondered what you were talking about. But here we are in week 3 of the month, and I'm like, oh
Every
shit.
time I was like, no, that's not me.
and they've been really inspiring. And I do the yearly one too, which is also really good fun of like seeing the themes. Like I channeled through in about the pandemic and the pandemic happening and the Queen dying and so there's been some really big events that have come through, that have been channeled through, that have, come to fruition. But for me, it's not about getting it right. It's just making people aware that their energy is part of a collective energy. And when sometimes we can feel really alone and isolated and think that what's happening to us is just us. It's just us feeling that way. It's just us that's experiencing that pain. It's just us feeling the fogginess or not having the clarity or feeling like you know what you're doing and then not the next. Like, and then when people hear the forecasts, they're like, oh, there's a sense of relief because there's an understanding
Yes.
that that you're not alone in it. So yeah.
We are all energy, yeah, and that's and it is good to know that we are connected and that we are all having our own. Well, I think things show up differently on each individual, but they have like the same maybe meta kind of word. I don't know. Does one say meta?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you were saying. Yeah, like the same, there's a
More abstract.
yeah, above or the same below. But yeah, there's an overarching theme or energy or feeling that people are experiencing. And that's why I say intuitive body, because sometimes it's that feeling in the body that we are experiencing. Whether it's, the unsettledness or the fogginess or the uncertainty, but knowing that we got to keep doing the things. And there's so much of that this year where it's like you're being pushed to move forward, but you don't really know what you're moving forward to, but you've got to have the ending without really knowing what you're walking into. There's a really deeper level of trust that we're being asked to cultivate this year. And it's making people really uncomfortable and really unsettled.
I know, me too. Because I have to share this because of two things. First of all, you talking about ending and everything, and I have different areas of work, and I came back to one area because I was asked to, and I Texas came in, and I thought, well, yeah, that would be good for me and my financial situation and everything. So I said yes. And it was okay, but I had cramps in my legs once I started there until it was over. And every time I was like, I had a couple of days pause, and then I would go there again, do a job, and I would have cramps again. I was okay, this is so weird. And then I kind of try to see where do I feel joy and move towards the joy that works the best for me. So I thought, well, that doesn't feel like so much joy right now. And I ended it. I said, well, I can't do any more of that this year. And the cramps went away. I was just like, okay.
The body speaks, the body
Speaks. And I have to tell you one more thing, because everybody who's listening and looks for a one-on-one session with Natalie, I will totally encourage you to do so. You are sharing on Instagram when you have free spots.
Yeah, or in my newsletter. Yeah.
Oh, in your newsletter, yeah, of course. And I booked one for my birthday this year, and I haven't talked about it in the podcast yet. So this is the first time me talking about it. And you shared a lot of things which really helped me. And you shared with me about drawing, like going, and you said something like it had to be dirty and messy. You said it has to be messy. It's to come all out. And I was like, okay, I'm more like into the aquarelle stuff, like let it be nice and neat. And you're like, no, it has to be messy. And you don't know me. So that was really funny. So I went into a store, I bought the things, but I didn't feel a moment to do something. And then I had a reading, and an old friend came from across the country. And she came and we talked, and she said that her husband does workshops where people draw on really big sceneries, really messy. And she used the same word. And I was like, okay, we gotta talk, and we gotta do something in my town. It wasn't so funny. I was like, okay, that's how this works. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, it's back into that, like you noticing. So you notice the theme, you notice the pattern, you notice the word, and you then piece the dot together of, oh, that's what Nat said, or that's what your spirit team were channeling through me so that you could receive it, so that when it landed in front of you in that conversation with your friend, that you were like, oh shit, that's for me. Oh shit, now I get this. And that's why I love this work. Like, that's why I love how it still makes me excited. Like, it still blows my mind that's why they give me specific words that I'm channeling for you, because they're your words that you need to hear, because you're going to resonate with them. They're not words that I always use. And I love that in sessions where I use a word and they're like, oh God, I just said that this morning, or oh gosh, that's our family phrase, or whatever, because it then lands in the body. Again, the intuitive body, then like the ping, the intuitive yes, the drop in, that like energetic resonance that matches the words, then give you that feeling of, oh yeah, that feels good. Right, gonna take action on that intuitive message.
Yeah, that's great. So I love that, and I really wanted to share it with everybody, because it was just so fun that things come back to you, and I almost forgot, but then that word, and you're like, was like a ring on the alarm. Like, okay, oh, wait, what did you just say?
That sounds awesome. Oh my God, that sounds, because I remember giving you that message, and it was also that it needed to be big. Like, it couldn't be small. It needed to be big and messy. So I love the fact that this is like, big and messy.
So I think the things I bought are just too small, because I couldn't take that's such a big thing. So that was really funny. So encouraging everybody, if you need advice, to go and spend some time with Natalie. So when we are talking about you channeling and receiving words, I would love to hear a little, how does that work? So do you see that, or do you hear it? Or I know we have all different channels. I learned it with you. So how does it work for you, if you would like to share?
For me, I have all the sensations. So for me, I hear a lot. So for me, it's just like my normal thoughts in my head that I then now have the confidence to share what I'm hearing. And it's like me thinking and just sharing it. So it's a combination of all at the same time. It's not broken down. It's like me feeling, there's a knowing, there's the hearing of my own voice in my own head that I then share. Yeah, that's and I see too. So then they'll also give me imagery, especially if I'm describing things or there are symbols that want to be shown. For me, I see things. So it's like being it's like in my mind's eye. So if I say to you, red apple, as I'm saying red apple, you're imagining and visualizing a red apple. You can see your red apple. That's how it works for me. So I'm hearing the word that they're giving me or whatever. And then I'm actually then seeing what it looks like. And then I then describe what I'm being shown. So, and they do it really quickly. And I've also learned that they give it to me while I'm talking. So it's not me just sitting in silence, waiting to receive it. And then I share the messages. When you have a session with me or you come in a group session, it's literally me just talking. And I've honed in the gift that I can receive, talk, and share all at the same time, which is fun. Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. And then you have loved ones and ancestors coming in and putting their energy in. So I channel loved ones that have passed over, do mediumship too. And they come in and with their particular energy and share messages and guidance and yeah, share with the people to what wants to be shared. So, and that has a really different energy to it as well than, um, I can work, I know the difference energetically between a loved one that's coming through, an older ancestor, or a spirit team, you're part of your spirit team, spirit guide that's just giving other messages. There's a very different energy. I can tell when a loved one is coming through. It has a different effect on my brain. It like actually stops me from properly talking. I can just feel the energy come in and then I can tell the difference and give you have how it comes into my body, whether it's male or female, depending on which side of my body it comes in, which is why I'm saying like the intuitive body is really important because I know that the masculine, if it's a male energy from a loved one, it comes through my right side. If it's a woman, it comes through my left side of my body. I can then feel through the timeline whether it's a grandparent or a great grandparent, and that's all done through like feeling and visualization, where I visualize like the family tree and they like it lights up, or I move along the family tree until I like feel like the energy stops and I'm like, okay, this is where it ends. And it's
Wow.
the same when they give me dates or ages. So if you have a session with me, I also give ages of things that happened in your life. And so I ask questions. So as I'm talking and channeling, I'm also asking questions in my head of like, but what age is that? Or what is this? And so the biggest thing to with your intuition is to ask questions. So if you're someone that is like connecting with your spirit team or connecting with your intuition and you want to play with the energy, ask questions as well. Have the confidence to ask questions because you'll get more insight too. So yeah, they can give me specific ages of things. And that's mainly because I ask questions and they give me the answers back, and it's confidence. It's confidence in you know, start small. Like I've had decades of practice and my gift shifting and evolving. So I have a really deep level of trust of what I'm receiving. But when I first was really starting, you know, I was like, am I making this up? Is this real? Am I crazy? Am I making this up? It's natural. It's natural. And it was only through the irony is it's only through sharing the message with other people that then gives you the validation that you're right, you should keep, listening. And so anyone that feels like they're getting messages for people, um, yeah, share the message or share the feeling, or because it's part of you trusting your gifts.
Totally. Thank you for sharing that. And I, with the work with you and Tracy and with myself, that really was a game changer to listen to what my feelings tell me. Not like the normal feelings, but like this deep feeling inside of me or what shows up. And I sometimes share it when I have a coaching call or do something. And it's just amazing that this always hits much more than what my brain makes up or tries to construct.
Yeah.
So it is just for me, I'm still learning to shut the rest, the chatter in my brain, which it does by itself, down to listen to it. Because the
Yeah.
rest can be really loud. I think for us all, that's the
Yeah, big
challenge.
time. Yeah, I still get my monkey mind.
So that's wonderful. Natalie, I love the time with you. And to close up, I would love to share with, of course, everybody needs to read your book, but is there something, and listen to your podcast and have a session or something, but is there something else you want people to go to or to do more or to read or whatever, so they get the faith into their intuitive power?
Oh, great question. It's funny because the question that I mean, I'm asking my team, what shall I share? I would actually ask people to sit with what you're resisting right now. Like, sit with what's uncomfortable in your life right now and actually kind of invite it in versus pushing it away with something that feels good, that brings you joy. And actually sit with what's actually going on in your life that feels uncomfortable and kind of look at it and ask yourself, how can this transform? How can this end? How can the new beginning happen from where you are? And just kind of allow yourself to kind of peel that back a little bit, I think just feels really, really important. I think there's so much pressure in doing more, reading more versus kind of sitting with, again, how the body wants us to that's communicating with us. Um, but I also suggest doing that after you've moved your body, you've reset your energy field, because sometimes it can then put us into a spiral. So I would go and, bounce on the reformer, go for a walk in nature, do the breath work, do the thing that brings you joy. And then afterwards, go and sit with what's uncomfortable, and see what comes up, because you're going to get a completely different take and perspective on what feels uncomfortable once you've done that. Yeah, and I'd suggest doing that. I think ask to be shown the ending and what needs to transform right now, and it'll be really interesting to see what comes through for you.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for your time. Of course, in the show notes, everybody finds all the places and all the things you share. I will put together there, and hopefully lots of beautiful people will find you.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. It's been such a lovely conversation.
Thank you too. Bye bye. And everybody, if you think that this episode will help or suit one of the people you know, just share it. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on Instagram or social media. Just check us. Bye bye.
Bye.
Hey und pst, es gibt einen neuen Podcast von mir, der ursprünglich auf einer von mir geschaffenen Kursplattform nur zur Verfügung gestellt wurde. Er heißt Zurück zur Natur Und ich beschreibe darin, wie ich ätherische Öle und Supplements nutze und was ich den Leuten, die das mit mir entdecken, rate. Wenn du also Lust hast, auf diesem Weg auch mir ein bisschen zuzuhören, dann findest du Zurück zur Natur überall da, wo du auch diesen Podcast findest. Viel Spaß beim Zuhören.